The word iota has two distinct meanings. As a noun, 1. A tiny or scarcely detectable amount. 2. The ninth letter of the Greek alphabet.
Welcome to IoTA for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016. I'm Tony Lynn. IoTA is a daily news podcast focused on the Internet of Things industry and a little bit about Atlanta, Georgia. So let's get started for the day. There's a lot to get to and a lot of reading, unfortunately. So Patrick Gray in Tech Republic reports that IoT successes is more about focusing on strengths and less about creating an ecosystem. For years, most trainers, well, let me back up for a second. In this case, he's actually talking about how a smart bicycle gets here. So I'm going to just read directly from it. It's too long to actually break down. For years, most trainers were fairly dumb devices that might allow for resistance adjustment and little else, with cyclists generally being a group of disposable income that appreciates technology. Eventually, a company called CompuTrainer created a connected trainer and associated computer program that allowed a cyclist to integrate the trainer with a personal computer. This allowed a cyclist to create a workout on their PC and have the computer control the resistance level and monitor the cyclist's performance during the workout. CompuTrainer provided the entire package of hardware and software, achieving a vaunted state that many companies claim they aspire to, that of an ecosystem provider, whereas the entire experience of process is designed, delivered, and integrated by a single provider. But the trouble, ask nearly any executive in a product company that benefits what they see in IoT, and they're likely cite becoming an ecosystem provider is the consummate position in the market. Apple is a prime example of a successful ecosystem provider, whereas the company delivers hardware, software systems, integration of other vendors, and even a marketplace for third parties, happily delivering each of those. What's not to like? The trouble ecosystems, it's amazingly difficult to succeed in each discipline required to own the ecosystem. The company may have a storied history of developing well-engineered products, but it's minimal competence with the software. Certainly, the services are available from a variety of third parties. He goes on to talk about the fact that although CompuTrainer, when they initially had come out, kind of controlled the ecosystem, they found very quickly that no one else wanted to buy into it, particularly other manufacturers of bicycles. They felt like it was too restrictive, and then, of course, everybody starts building their own. And realistically, what Patrick's trying to get at is the fact that while CompuTrainer might be really, really good at the hardware, the bicycles themselves, and sending it to software, that they're not as good as the software. And so eventually they need to be focused. And it's a fairly long article. I debated whether to put it into it. But ultimately, it's about the fact that, you should focus on what you're very interested in. Now, I disagree with him from the standpoint of ecosystems not being important. Ecosystems are extremely important, especially in IoT, probably more in IoT than anywhere else. The problem, and I've seen this in my own professional experience, is that the ecosystem can't be controlled by one group. I'm not going to name the group there, but there's a company here in Atlanta who's attempting to kind of do that. But they have, obvious gaps, is that they can't be the connector. They can't provide the LTE or the Wi-Fi, or not the Wi-Fi, the actual connectivity to the cloud or whatever else. So then you still have to rely on someone like Verizon or AT&T to pull that off. And then otherwise, they fall short on other things as well. So you can't be both the hardware provider, you can't also be the software provider and the connectivity provider and the big data provider. All this together, if you're trying to do it all, it means you're master of nothing. You're jack of all trades, but you're not something that somebody wants to buy. So I do think it's more important to actually focus and find the right partners who can actually do the pieces and do the pieces extremely well. And by doing it well, it's also more efficient and maybe more cost effective. And then that is the ecosystem that you need to be focused on. All right, in a PR Newswire report, Simcom says it is now the #1 IoT module vendor. According to ABI Research, Simcom moved to the #1 spot for 2015 module shipments. It seems like it's a little old, but it was just reported today. Simcom is engaged in some very high-profile partnerships to develop some of their products and features, says Ms. Wendy Wang, general manager of Simcom. More and more customers are starting to realize the quality of Simcom products. She continued. The module is not only meant to function at the highest level and to push new features into the market, but easy to use, a major demand for the developers and researchers in particular. So, they've had a couple of mergers and acquisitions. They've slowly crept up to the top. I don't know that this really means anything just yet. I mean, we're just at the beginning of what might be considered consolidation in the market. I think we still are many years away before that happens. But SimCon itself was founded in 2002. They're a fairly new company, I guess. Actually, in this space, they would be considered the old guys. SimCom Wireless Solutions have been fully committed to providing a variety of wireless modules and IoT applications for customers around the world. And obviously, they were doing this long before it was called IoT, but they're capitalizing on that now. With a constant focus on innovation and research, SimCon has risen to become a globally recognized brand and a serious contender for the industry. I love PR reports; they're always so warm and fuzzy for the company. All right, so I've got something today that I'm not going to be able to show you just because it's fairly detailed, but it's very cool. So I like these articles of the what's inside type, where someone breaks down what's actually going on inside of these things. And William Wong of Electronic Design actually outlined what should be on every IoT chip. It's fairly detailed, but it's a very good read, particularly if you're interested in that sort of thing. I think for the most part, that's a small portion of our community. So anyway, it's in the show notes. Feel free to go take a look at it on your own. All right, Nathan Eddy in Information Week reports that IT is leading the charge when it comes to IoT deployments. The top 5 perceived benefits of IoT adoption include cost savings from operational efficiencies, better streams of data to improve decision-making, staff productivity gains, better visibility and monitoring of assets throughout the organization, and improve customer experiences. And what they found, and actually I can read this, but what they found is that this is not coming from the executive level necessarily. That it's not top down; it's more bottom up, where the IT group is telling the teams that they can take advantage of this. It's not a bad sign. According to the research, the CIO, CTO, and other IT staff, I guess they're executives, are leading the way for most IoT initiatives, although 46% of businesses reported that the involvement of the CEO, president, and 31% reported the involvement of business unit leaders, such as chief marketing officers, CMOs, or chief operating officers, COOs. However, there are still several risk factors giving organizations pause. According to the report, factors most likely to inhibit adoption of IoT technologies are upfront cost, lack of skilled workers with the necessary expertise, and ongoing fees and maintenance costs. So even though IT is kind of driving some of these things, IT is also quick to point out to everyone involved that we don't really have the skill set in-house. So, again, great news for us is that there's still plenty of opportunity out there as these things become more and more prevalent. So rounding out the roadblocks were cybersecurity risk and interoperability with existing systems and devices. Again, just because you can build it doesn't mean it works with everything else. And I'll leave you with a final thought with this, is the research also revealed that 57% of companies believe their organization is well equipped to manage the security component of IoT, which is actually very surprising to me, and I think to others, that companies, almost 60% of companies think that they can handle the security, whereas everything we report constantly is how bad the security of IoT is. Very interesting. All right, and our final story of the day, which is also about security. David Bison reports that smart IoT socket suffers from dumb security vulnerabilities. Bitdefender recently came across a serious flaw in the EdiMax smart power switch. And I'm going to go into some fairly detail here just to talk about this. But after successfully connecting the device to the network, the device registered with its vendor's servers, sent various pieces of information such as MAC address, IP address, and firmware version to the app for storage. Although that communication marked the end of the setup, the researchers who were doing this could use the smart socket to schedule an electronic device to turn on and off from their smartphone. Simple enough, but flawed. So here's what they found. Researchers found that the setup process suffered from the following vulnerabilities. The device's hotspot, which the mobile app uses to connect to the socket, is protected by a weak username password combination. Users receive no alerts when for deciding to stick with the product's default credentials. So if you could change the credentials and it would never let you know. The socket transmits the user's Wi-Fi credentials in open, clear text. Horrible. All device to application communication is encrypted but not encoded, meaning an attacker could easily reverse the encoding scheme. And users configure the socket to send them notifications to their email, but for some reason the device requires access to their email username and password to fulfill that functionality. They go on to say, this type of attack enables a malicious party to leverage the vulnerability from anywhere in the world. Up until now, most IoT vulnerabilities could only be exploited in close proximity to the device. However, this flaw allows hackers to control devices over the internet and bypass the limitations of network address translation. You can just imagine how serious this is. So, guys, you're building your stuff. Don't ever do this kind of thing. Never send anything in clear text. Are you kidding me? Anyway, again, these are some fun things to note. All right, so that's our show for today. Please send me any feedback or story ideas that you might have to my email address, tonamuck@gmail.com. You can always find me on Twitter @tonamuck. Feel free to retweet the shows or to send me comments there. I would love it. You can find out anything I'm doing on www.tonamuck.com. And if you're enjoying what's going on here and you want to see more of it, you want to see me get better, want to see things become more professional, please support us at patreon.com/tonamuck. Until tomorrow, have a great day.